This is TWiT.
iPhone users in the U.S. spent an average of $79 on apps in 2018. That's up 36% from last year. Now, a lot of that goes straight to Fortnite, but subscription apps are making money too. Joining us to talk about what it's like to earn your living from a subscription app is Ish, developer at Illuminated Bits. Welcome to the show,
Hello.
Ish.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. So first off, I should say that I am a paying subscriber to Capsicum, which I've learned to pronounce with your help.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's a journaling app and a to-do app. I love it. Check it out. Tell us why you decided to create a journaling app as a subscription app.
So I've been in the store for a while, and early on in the store, basically the only option was paid upfront apps. And that sounded good to everyone at the time because we really didn't think about what life would be like 5 to 10 years down the road. It turns out apps need a lot of love and care over time, and they need maintenance. And after a while, they become unsustainable if there's just like a flat fee up front, because over time with every update, it has like a fee associated with it. Like it costs some amount of money to update and maintain the app. So if we had the flat fee up front, 99 cents, $1, $5, even like a larger amount, like $20, over time, year 5, year 7, year 12, suddenly the app starts actually kind of losing money because it costs more money to maintain than we receive from money getting in. So I decided I want to have an app that's sustainable and can last for years to come. So I went with subscription.
And so what are your thoughts on this $79 figure? Did that surprise you that people are spending that much, or do you think it would be more?
Well, a little bit. So it's gone up, which is good. Initially, when the model changed. So initially, apps that came to the store were kind of like, the reason they were called apps is they weren't full applications. They were kind of like these small little nuggets of functionality, these little bitty apps. Over time, that functionality has grown quite a bit. Right. So in the beginning, when we had like the initial iPhone, there's really not much you could do with an app. That's changed tremendously over time. And as such, the model changed from the paid upfront model to the subscription model. So over time, once that changed, kind of set in, and then apps start charging subscriptions, there's a lot of resistance to kind of things changing. And in the beginning, the money really wasn't that great for subscriptions, but it's kind of encouraging to see that over time, people see the value in and are continuing to kind of pour into it. One of the things, though, sometimes when these numbers come out, I'm not really sure who's being counted as a developer. For example, sometimes Netflix or HBO is counted into that subscription fee, and that's not really quite the same as paying for the app as paying for like a content service like that.
Explain for me kind of the difference between the two, because I think I see where you're headed as far as that's concerned. They're kind of playing on different playing fields. But what is the difference between someone paying a subscription to Netflix for streaming video on a monthly basis versus someone paying for a journaling app on a subscription basis?
The difference is kind of bread and butter. So basically, the only home I have is on iOS. For many people, if they didn't sign up through the App Store from Netflix. For instance, I didn't. I've had Netflix since back when they were mailing out DVDs. Mm-hmm. I already was paying Netflix. So any money I pay for that doesn't really count. So same thing with like Game of Thrones. Some of the money that goes to signing up for HBO through the App Store is counted into as the developer money, but really people got into it just to watch Game of Thrones. So it's not really the same thing because it's not really an app so much as it is Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's a really, really great distinction that you're making there that I think a lot of people probably don't think about when they see these numbers, right? And it behooves Apple or whoever is providing these, whoever is behind this to tout that much higher number. They're going to get it if they're including something like Netflix into that number. Some apps offer subscriptions. I feel like I'm on Android, by the way, full disclosure.
Okay.
All right. It's okay. It's okay.
Someday you'll bring your app over to Android, and I will welcome it with open arms and show it off to all my Android fans. But I feel like some apps offer subscriptions, and users, there's a little bit of a backlash. It's like they immediately question, why am I paying a subscription on this? Whereas other apps seem like a perfect fit for the subscription model. I think subscription is great. I love supporting developers, and if that's going to keep developers incentivized to continue updating and feeling like their time is valuable, then great. But how can a developer be sure when they're creating an app whether their app, that they should be offering it as a one-time fee or whether they should be offering it a subscription model?
Okay. So a clear distinction for me is how much it costs to maintain the app. So for Capsicum, I have things that I have monthly costs for. And really, the more users use the app, the more it costs me to maintain the app. I have to pay for storage. I have to pay for hosting. I have to pay for there's a weather component that I pay for. And every time you check the weather, it costs a little bit of money. So what you want to do is check out over time, is the app actually costing you money to host, to have the app, and then what's your schedule for updates? If you're only updating your app once a year, then maybe not. Maybe subscription isn't the way for you. But if you're doing an app update, I don't know, once every 2 weeks of every month or so, then you really have to factor in over time, over 5 to 7 years, how am I going to continue to kind of keep this app viable? Because kind of a mistake that some folks make early on, and I made this mistake before, is I'm not trying to get rich per se. I just want to kind of keep things even. And I'd like a paid upfront app once, so I'm going to offer paid upfront app. But what I didn't realize was that over time, there's like a limited number of users that you can actually sell the app to. Over time, as that kind of dries up, you won't be able to afford to actually make the updates. So that kind of becomes an issue. So really, I think any app that requires like regular maintenance, like you're doing anything offering like a service, then charge a subscription fee. An example for an app that wouldn't necessarily need one is something like a calculator, right? That's a utility. How is a calculator different this year than it was 2 years ago? Not very, very different. But if it's something where things are being constantly updated and changing, and you're implementing some of Apple's newer technologies, you're doing like some of the machine learning stuff, or like augmented reality things, or doing any of the fancy UI stuff, like as things go on, then you probably want to find a way to make that not come out of the initial fee.
Now, do you ever feel pressure from Apple to create a subscription app or to charge more just because, I mean, they're making more money the more money that you make? Do you ever feel pressure from them?
I don't personally feel pressure for it, but I see that Apple is definitely nudging developers into that direction. Like, hey, subscription. And here's an incentive, right? So if you have a paid upfront app, Apple gets 30% that one time. If you have a subscription app, they get 30% the first year, but every subsequent year, they only take out 15%. So you actually make more money if you have a subscription app over time. And there's also certain functionality like the free trials, right? So it's like free trials. They're still not really exactly free. They haven't set up for subscription, but it's not even an option for the paid upfront apps. They only do introductory pricing for subscription apps. So there's a lot of incentive, like, hey, do subscription. And that has there's a couple things around that. One of the benefits of that is that if you have a subscription app and your income is based on keeping subscribers happy, then the app is more likely to be maintained. And I think that provides a better customer experience. And honestly, because I look at it from two sides. I wasn't always a developer. Once upon a time, I was just a consumer. I think it's best for the customer and for the developer to have subscription. On the customer side, once upon a time, apps had like real costs. It would be like from $20 to a few $100s, right? And you maybe update that app every 3 to 5 years. I would much rather have that price like divided up over time, and then pay that a little bit a month or a little bit a year, and then get to evaluate, like, okay, are you meeting my expectations? If you are, I continue to go on to the next step, pay another year. But if not, I'll just withdraw from the subscription, and then I don't have to worry about it anymore, find a different app. So it's actually best for both. And also because as a customer, sometimes you love an app, but you see like a blog post one day that they weren't able to maintain it, they had to do the sunsetting thing, or they had to sell to another company because they needed money from somewhere. The road ahead is really important. So if you really like the app and you want it to be maintained and sustained over time, then really subscription makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, and when I really think about it, like I feel like over the last few years at least, we've heard more and more about just the reality that our old app model as users is different from where we are now, and kind of diving into that a little bit deeper. What I mean is like it used to be that apps came out, we were installing apps left, right, and center, and now what we've come to realize is that really, as a typical user uses on a daily basis, very regularly, a very small amount of apps. Everything else is just kind of like, they sampled that installed, they uninstalled it, whatever. If there's subscriptions based around the things you truly use and they're priced
Absolutely.
reasonably, then the incentive is there to keep it updated. I'm sure there's a little bit of pressure on you as a developer to keep it updated from the users who say, hey, I'm paying you $1.99 every, however many months or whatever. Please do the work that's required to keep this updated. But then as a user, you kind of feel like you're getting what you need because these really are the few apps that you actually use with any regularity. Everything else is sampled.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the really key points in deciding on subscription. How often are folks using the app? If there's an app that you use once a year, then maybe not. Maybe you don't need a subscription for that. Maybe just every year offer something like that. But if it's an app that people are using daily, multiple times a day, multiple times a week, then it's kind of no one rides for free. The more you use it, the more it'll cost over the long run. That's just the natural order of things because the things that you use most often need the most maintenance.
So I know there's rumors that WWDC will be around. June, I think, is the rumor date. Do you know what the rumor?
The rumor, I think, is June 3rd through 7th.
Okay, so but they haven't announced anything. But as we discussed, but you already have your hotel room, so you're going to be there. What is a developer, like an independent developer like yourself? What do you get out of WWDC?
I really get community from it, right? So I haven't had a ticket to the actual event since 2012 was the last time that I actually went to the actual event. Now it's before the lottery. This will be the first time that I'm actually going to throw my hat in the ring and try to get a ticket since then. But just being in the area, being around other developers and such, just the whole feeling of the community, being around just thousands of other developers is really rewarding and fun, and it's really exciting.
Awesome. Well, Ish, thank you so much for joining us. Ish is the creator of many apps, including Capsicum, which is the Australian word for just a red pepper, in case I learned that from you. It's an amazing journaling app, just like a bullet journal, digital washi tape, the whole thing. I showed it off on iOS today, and I think you would like it. And you can follow Ish. He's great on Twitter at Ish. That's ISH.
Dang, you're lucky.
Yeah.
All right.
You secured that one early, didn't you?
Oh, no. Actually, here's the thing. So my Twitter handle is actually iShabazz. It's ISHABAZZ. And there's another guy whose name happens to be Ish. It's a really rare name, and he got it before me. But
wait, you're not ISH on Twitter? You're not Ish?
No,
oh.
in real life, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Don't go to. I mean, maybe you can follow him and ask him to give it to Ish because he's the only Ish. But
It's a lot. Used to it.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Take care, guys. Thanks.
All right.